When the northerly half of the district of Kent was separated and designated as the county of Lambton in 1849, the county seat was established at Port Sarnia, the largest town in the new county. A local stonemason by the name of Alexander Mackenzie was contracted to build a new courthouse and jail for Lambton County. The building was of fieldstone, 3 stories in height, with a walled yard behind. The first execution to take place at the new county jail was that of Thomas Cleary on December 5, 1862. He had been charged in the fatal stabbing of Edward Burke. Both men had been employed by Mr. Barron, innkeeper, on his property 2 miles out on the London road, chopping wood for the 2 months previous. Upon completion of their work on March 17th, they, along with other co-workers, refreshed themselves at the inn. After a while, it was decided to go into town to seek further refreshment at establishments in the town, the National Hotel on Christina Street being one. While there, Burke and Cleary got into a scuffle on the front veranda and had to be separated. Cleary stormed off in the direction of London Road while the others remained at the National. After some time, the others decided to return to Barron's Inn, where unknown to them, Cleary had gone. Cleary was seen to be quite agitated going in and out of the tavern. Suddenly, a man named Michael Walsh came in with his left hand bleeding profusely, saying Cleary had cut him while he was trying to separate Burke and Cleary. Shortly afterward, Burke staggered in, collapsed to his knees, followed by Cleary, who was covered in blood. Cleary went to the wash basin and washed himself, while Burke expired from his wounds a couple of minutes after his collapse. When accused of stabbing Burke, Cleary clearly denied it, saying that Burke had killed himself. The coroner, Dr. Macmillan, selected a jury the next day and brought them out to Barron's Tavern to witness the post-mortem examination performed by Dr. Buck. 4 stab wounds were found in the body, 1 in the hand, 1 behind the ear, 1 in the back, and 1 in the chest. The cause of death had been the chest wound, which cut into the aorta. Cleary insisted that he had not killed Burke, but that the alcohol he had consumed was the culprit. Having no success in having a sentence commuted, preparations were made for his execution. At 9 a.m., Cleary was moved from his cell to the hall of the jail. Here he was bound and a white cap placed on his head. Throughout the process, he prayed with 2 clergymen who had been with him since the day before. Others present were Sheriff Flintoff and his deputy, the mayor, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Shoebotham, A. Fisher, Esquire, and representatives of the press. At 9:20 a.m., Cleary was moved to the scaffold, which had been erected level with the top of the south wall of the yard. Ascending without assistance, he was placed on the drop by the executioner, a short, thick-set man wearing a mask. As the cap was being drawn down over his eyes, he continued to pray. When all was ready, Cleary said, "I hope God will forgive me. I forgive all who have injured me, and hope all I have injured will also forgive me. O God, forgive me." He continued to ask God to have mercy on his soul until 9:40, when the sheriff gave the signal and the bolt was drawn. Due to the thick rope, the 10-foot drop only partially dislocated his neck, and he struggled for several minutes until gradually all was still. After hanging for about a half hour, he was pronounced dead by Dr. Johnson. His body was claimed by persons convinced of his innocence and taken to the adjoining house to be prepared for burial. He was buried in the Catholic cemetery. There were about 400 spectators present at this, Sarnia's first execution. It even brought about a poem written by Robert McBride and published in his book that he published a few years later. The poem titled On the Murder of the Late Mr. Russell, London and Sarnia Road.